Hey everybody, from Beantown to your town, this is
The
the
Beantown Beatdown.
Yep, Matthew Burris here.
Gabe Thomas.
Yep, got a Yellowtail Sangria Blanco. This is actually the best sangria that Yellowtail has. I mean, I like the other sangria, the original one, but this one is good. It's
Drank a lot of it last week.
Oh, well, I had three glasses last week during my boxing match, but
Yeah.
I like this one. It's more citrus. It's got more fruity taste,
It's
so
clear, yeah.
yes, it is. So now we're gonna get into some headlines. Speaking of last week, first and foremost, John Jones is the interim UFC light heavyweight champion. Made a comeback, and he was phenomenal. It looked like he didn't miss a step out there.
Nice.
Being OSP, and by the way, OSP at the end of the night had to go to the hospital with a broken arm.
Really? Oof.
Yep. So hopefully he'll get better. Also that night, Edson Barboza beat Anthony Pettis, and this is Pettis' third loss. I mean, losing the title to Dos Anjos, losing to Eddie Alvarez, and now losing to this guy. I mean, Anthony Pettis' fighting career right now in the UFC is on life support at this moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and
Sounds like it.
also last week I saw the Gennady Golovkin versus Dominic Wade fight, and that was a good fight, man. 22nd knockout in a row. He's on a 22 knockout streak, and of course I'm waiting for the big fight with him and Canelo Alvarez. I mean, Alvarez has got a fight against Amir Khan on Cinco de Mayo weekend, which is next week.
Right.
So we got to wait till that. Of course, I think Alvarez is going to knock Amir Khan out in 8 rounds, and you can hear more about my thoughts on that on Fighting Words on our Facebook page.
Nice. Yep.
And of course, this weekend, Friday and Saturday night, it is a marathon of premier boxing champions. I mean, these are going to be some good fights this Friday and Saturday night. Friday on Spike, the Durrell brothers are fighting. I mean, Anthony Durrell fighting Caleb Truax, and in the main event, Andre Durrell fighting Blake Caparello. On Fox the next night, Victor Cruz versus Andre Berto 2, the rematch from 2011 Fight of the Year.
Oh, man.
Yes,
Yeah.
and on Showtime, we got not one, but 2 super middleweight title fights. James DeGault defending his title against Rogelio Medina, and Badou Jack versus Lucien Boot. And this is the weekend for boxing fans. If you're a big-time boxing fan, this is the weekend for you. And I am looking forward to this weekend, man. I'm going to be hogging the TV and pissing my mom off, but I don't care, man.
Oh, well,
this
to that, right?
Yes. Oh, this is good wine. Real good wine here.
Nice.
Yes. And now we're going to turn it over to Gabe for
It's Not Human Nature. Yes, indeed. So, I've been talking, we've been talking a lot on the show about, just kind of the attitudes behind fighting, and I've asked you before what you feel like the future of fighting is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, kind of going with that, I think it's time for a little gut check time. It's something I wasn't sure if I was actually going to say on air or not, but I have decided to say it, which is, obviously I'm just a casual fan, as we talked about before, just a casual fighting fan, and this is definitely your subject. The subject I didn't find the subject, but the subject found me, and I'm glad for that. But the thing is, something I've been, debating whether or not to say is that I'm actually, with my personal beliefs, I'm actually not sure that that fighting belongs in the future.
Fighting doesn't belong in the future. You mean as a sport, or as in general?
Well, I mean, I do believe in general we should find better ways to resolve our differences. So that's one thing. But as a sport, it's kind of back and forth for me. I've been back and forth about it. So yeah, I don't think that in the future, like regular people, and especially not elected officials. I don't think that they should physically fight. And I think that, we've been finding that there are more diplomatic ways to work things out, and that's what courts and other such things are for. And then, I've listened to what you say every week about your fascination with the sport, and I've listened, about, just everything you see in it and everything your, fight fan friends see in it, and I just don't know. Like so I have said that I believe that we are meant for certain things, like athletically, and for some people, fighting is what they excel at, and that's good. I just like I said, I don't think regular people should, engage in it, especially not to solve problems. So, why would we, as we're evolving as a society, why would we have a sport that represents that?
What sport do you mean? Like boxing, kickboxing, MMA? Like which sport, fighting sport in particular, are you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, all of it, actually. Obviously, boxing. Boxing is it used to be a lot more. It used to be a genteel type of thing. It used to be its own thing. It's obviously been around a lot longer than the other combat sports.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's that. And I think a lot of criticism about MMA was, we've talked about this, that it was taking a turn from boxing and becoming more brutal, etc.
And the other thing was, and also some martial arts aficionados are saying like this is degrading martial arts. This is martial arts taking a step backwards, and
right.
blah 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 blah. So
right, exactly.
Which I believe is bullshit, by the way.
Yes, I know that you do. So I guess it's I guess I'm just making known a personal struggle. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Is that I do believe that some people, people excel at fighting, and they should, have an arena for that. I do, believe that it's certainly a sport of personal endurance. Like, it's with team sports, you can hand the ball off, that type of thing, but you cannot ever do that in fighting. So I mean, I see that that's something that you like about it. I don't. I guess ever since you talked about like what you see in the future of fighting, I've been like, well, that's great, but I don't know if I want. I don't want regular people to be resorting to violence in the future. So again, sports is an arena to to have other people do things that we wouldn't do. I understand that, but again, do we really want a sport like that represents something that we want to outgrow? In my opinion, we want that to still be around. So I'd like to say yes, and I'm very. We've talked about it before. It doesn't change the fact that I'm really proud of like Ronda Rousey, for instance.
Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta be proud of her.
Yeah,
and especially now with the UFC making so much strides. I mean, like, or just MMA in period. I mean, like, MMA now legalized in New York City. They have a show coming up on my birthday, by the way, November 12th.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yep, my 30th birthday. And as a matter of fact, the fighters of the UFC are on Good Morning America. I mean, I didn't watch it, but I had to DVR that.
Right.
But Paige VanZant, who's also on Dancing with the Stars, she's on there. She's on there on Good Morning America. She's been kicking ass on that show.
Right. Exactly.
But as far as fighting in the future goes, I mean, like, it's one thing if you're defending your family or your friends or even defending yourself. Okay,
right.
by all means, kick the motherfucker's ass.
Yes.
But as far as just going into an all around like street fight and and all this stuff, and I don't think there there's any room for that. I mean, but I did also mention one time in our earlier episodes about how, like combat sports, could replace war. I mean, it's like,
right, yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, instead of going into having a country fight each other, with guns and having
bombs,
bombs and
millions
innocent
of civilians,
yeah,
killed,
innocent civilians, dying,
Mm-hmm.
people getting caught in a crossfire. It's like, okay, why don't we get your country's best and our country's best, and we'll duke it out in the ring or cage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yeah, if that was actually a feasible option and everyone stuck to that, then yes, it would be great if that was a way to replace war. And then yes, then it would fulfill a really grand purpose, and it would reduce violence, in general across the world. So maybe that's the purpose of fighting in the future. Or just think as as a spectator sport, as entertainment, I understand that people are being way too PC nowadays. We've talked about that. I'm there. Yeah. I'm there with you. But
the pussification of America.
That. Yes. So I mean, I'm there with you. I agree with that in most terms. But in terms of like this type of society that we want, in most cases, I'm like, do we actually, entertainment isn't real, yes, but it also represents kind of the values that we have. So, I think I personally think we should be a little bit more careful in the future of, what type of values we're representing. And so if it's not a way to replace war, if it is just entertainment or sport, I'm not so sure I'm comfortable with that into the future. But if it is a way to replace war, then, then maybe we should go in that direction.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, granted, there are other countries that are just as good as in combat sports as we are. I mean,
True.
For example, I mean, if we were to go to war with Germany, or if we were to go to war with Japan, not that we would again because we already kicked their ass, but or some other country that was good in kickboxing, I mean,
right.
There's a slight chance they would beat our ass in kickboxing,
mm-hmm.
because they got some of the best kickboxers in Thailand, Japan, Amsterdam, mostly Germany, all Germany and
right.
England. So even in Canada, they got some bad motherfuckers out of there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In fact, a little quick story. On Sunday I was I was at a liquor store and I was looking for some beer, and
mm-hmm.
I ran into these group of people that were from Montreal, Canada. And I talked to them about George Roy St. Pierre, and one of the guys said, like, yeah, we like George Roy St. Pierre. He's a constant gentleman. And, talked about the potential of George Roy St. Pierre coming back to the UFC. There's a rumor out there that he could come back at UFC 200. And then I was telling them how, like, yeah, you guys got some good fighters that come out of there. George Roy St. Pierre, Peter Sugarfoot Cunningham and Arturo Gatti and Joseph Attolini, best fighters come out of Canada. And one guy jokingly said, "Yeah, I think it's the weather." Right. I think it's the weather that's making the best fighters coming out of there. And I said, "Yeah, man, keep those fighters coming."
Right.
Keep them coming.
Right. So it's definitely a source of national pride. I get that. And it's definitely But yeah, I mean, I think if we wouldn't want our politicians doing it, then we should think about if we want it to be part of our entertainment. Like, our society is set up that if you our politicians are arguing about something, if you actually bring violence to the table, you're not taken seriously. That's not how it's supposed to work. You know what I mean?
Tell that to Donald Trump.
I know. But we try not to talk about politics on this show. But I mean, that's actually I think a big problem when candidates do try and bring in violence. In 2010 there was someone else who said Second Amendment remedies. If the election doesn't go our way, that's a terrible thing to say. Like, the FBI should have been looking into her. So I so if if we don't want that in our in our politics, if we expect better in our politics, then I think we should at least think about if we expect better from people that are entertaining us.
Yeah, but the reality is you never know what's going to happen in the future. Like, for example, bringing up my favorite movie, actually one of my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, The Running Man. They said in the year 2017 they have the Running Man, where it's convicts. They go on this game show and they're being chased. They're being chased down by the stalkers and all that stuff. Well, it's 2016. We're coming up on 2017. But I'm like, where's my Running Man? That's what people are saying. They're like, where's my Running Man?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's actually an interesting side note. There's actually a lot of we are at a time where there's a lot of predictions or whatever that were depictions that were made of these current years. There was Back to the Future Day, October whatever in 2015.
Oh yeah,
Remember that?
The Chicago Cubs would win the World Series.
Exactly.
That's what they said. They were a good team last year, and it didn't happen. Of course, they are a good team this year, and although personally, I think I really do think that this is gonna hopefully be the year that the Red Sox win a World Series. This is Poppy's last season this season.
Good point.
But I would love to see the Cubs and the Red Sox in the finals, if that could happen.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I mean that's another example of of something that was made a decade or two ago, and more than a decade ago, and that now that's it's actually representing the year that we're in. So I mean, it is kind of time to step up if we're getting to the point where sci-fi movies not that long ago were predicting about us.
Yeah, I mean, we're already making strides with the computers and cell phones and
robotics.
Yeah, we have apps, and of course with Amazon. I mean, like if 10 years ago or 5 years ago, if you had told if someone had told both you and I that there would be a Netflix and an Amazon. Like Amazon would be creating their own TV shows and would be streaming movies. Right. We would call them liars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or the whole drone service. That Amazon could have their own propeller run machines to deliver things over air. Would be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Or an Xfinity.
Right.
With the computer, now because I have Xfinity now. I can watch TV shows and stuff on my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how to yet stream fights or anything like that, but I can watch shows. I can watch my HBO stuff or my Showtime stuff and anything on there online. If you had told me years ago that something like all this would happen, I would have said no way,
Right.
But
So on my topic about the future, we actually are the future to people that made Back to the Future. we're the future to them now, and people that made Running Man, we're the future. Next year we're going to be the future.
Well, we have hoverboards. I mean, the hoverboards. We have these hoverboards that are coming out right now.
Yeah, there's a whole hoverboard controversy, whatever.
Yeah, but we don't have a Running Man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't have a Running Man, and people. Now, of course, in today's world, people will be like, "Oh, why? No, these criminals, they have rights, and why should we put them on TV and let them fight for their survival?" It's like, well, hey, if they want freedom, they're saying they want freedom. Hey, this is their chance for freedom.
Right. I mean, I actually don't think everything should come true. I mean, I actually think it's it can be a good sign that not everything from sci-fi is coming true, just because a lot of the sci-fi movies like Running Man were dystopian. Not a good society, like 1984 and Brave New World, even further back in the day. They were trying to say, don't end up like this. Brave New World, we're all drugged out of our minds. Genetically separated into different classes. That type of thing. 1984. There's less language because they don't want anyone to have words that could go against the government, and the thought police. Like, that's a big bad idea, So in a way, it's kind of good that we aren't becoming like those movies and those stories.
Well, yeah, because then there'd be a lot of people like Alex Jones out there. I have documentations that say that they do not want us to say this about the government, because if we do, we will be held in a prison somewhere in Mexico where we will be water tortured, and I have documentations here. I got black helicopters surrounding this building right now who are trying to prevent me from telling the truth.
You're doing pretty good, Alex Jones. Yes.
Thank you.
Alex Jones was actually on, do you know the movie Scanner Darkly?
No, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Yeah. And speaking of dystopian futures, that's another one of my favorites.
Also, he's good friends with Charlie Sheen, actually.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, he actually defended Charlie during the whole drug thing, and rooting for Charlie, and of course, he also defended Charlie on the AIDS thing, and about Charlie being off his AIDS medication and visiting some kind of voodoo type dude, about AIDS and stuff like that. So,
right. Well, interesting about the drugs, because Scanner Darkly is about drugs and whatever, and that kind of like Brave New World. There's a new really dangerous drug, and it turns out it's actually from the government. But in Scanner Darkly, the police are anonymous, and it's actually like this specialized suit that the face keeps changing. And anyway, so it's really weird to look at, and you never know who the police could be. And, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, can you imagine a drug like that being sold in, because you work for CVS and stuff like that. Can you imagine a drug like that being sold at CVS or Walgreens or...
Right. I mean, again, part of the reason I'm glad we're not turning into a dystopian story, I hope not. I hope there's never something like, like Soma or like Substance D in that story that we sell at CVS.
Yeah, Gabe Shamus has information about drugs that are legal on the streets, that they are being sold in pharmacies like CVS and Rite Aid and Walgreens. He is an elitist for the New World Order, and this is a man we need to shut down immediately.
Exactly. But yeah, what I was gonna say is, in that movie Scanner Darkly, he actually is like that. There's a scene where he is speaking in a megaphone, and it's about, why are you suddenly seeing all this Substance D? It's coming from the government, and blah blah. And anyway, he's actually in the movie is actually dragged out by the police as he's saying all that stuff. So I'm sure Alex Jones was more than happy to play that role.
Exactly. And also getting back to the fighting in the future and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Look at the first UFC. And the way, if you ever look at the documentary on the UFC and how it was started, and this was a movie. This was an action movie's wet dream when it started out. Because listen, at the time that there were already movies that about an underground street fighting competition with martial artists. It was
right.
Like we had Bloodsport, which was the movie that made Van Damme a star. There was Blood Fist, which was actually more of a kickboxing movie, and it starred Don the Dragon Wilson. And there was Van Damme's Lionheart, and look at the idea for the UFC, and especially in the beginning, they wanted to build a cage. It was going to be electrical fence. Ooh. It was barbed wire, electrical fence. They wanted to build it around a moat and have, there was some talks of plexiglass and, alligators swimming around it. And now, keep in mind, this was, again, the Gracies had worked in Hollywood by this point. They had worked in some movies. They were actually, for the first Lethal Weapon, Hoist Gracie was a fight choreographer. Huh. Yeah, so that's why you see Mel Gibson doing those martial arts moves and stuff like that. And, of course, this was Mel Gibson before he was before he became crazy and started hating your people.
Exactly, psychotic. But anyway.
Yeah, so, I mean, you look at this and it's like, well, this is something from the movies, you know, this is like something in the future, you know, like, it was almost like the future had arrived.
Right, okay.
I mean,
so you're saying it was that type of excitement for people.
Well, yes, exactly. I mean, of course, the difference is that we're not in some country in Southeast Asia, you know, we're not in Hong Kong or Japan where it's like, you know, we're in some underground tournament and going through the back doors of Hong Kong or Thailand, and
right,
you know, we're not, or in some forest in the woods or something like that. This is real life, and of course, we're being legalized by the government, you know, the state athletic commissions,
right,
and that's why the UFC is what it is today. I mean, of course, back then it was like something out of, you know, like I said, out of Bloodsport, and also Mortal Kombat had just come out. The Mortal Kombat and the Street Fighter video games had just come out.
Right.
So it was like, it really was a action movie director's wet dream. That was. Yeah, you know, especially Bloodsport, man. You know, because Bloodsport was a great movie. I mean, remember when Bolo Young? Of course he's got dubbed, but remember when he looked at Van Damme and went, "You are next." And then, of course, there was a part where he goes, You broke my record. Now I break you. Just like I broke your friend."
Yeah, exactly. I guess one more thing while we're on this topic is that, you know, so another movie you can't not bring up, I think, is actually Fight Club.
Oh yeah,
Fight Club, right?
Oh yes, Fight Club with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton.
Norton, thank you. I was like, what's his name?
Well, yeah. Matter of fact, you actually look like a young Edward Norton.
Really? I think remember someone else told me that once.
Yeah, or like his. Especially you would look more like him if you had like a bald head, like he did in American History X.
Right.
Yeah, I actually remember telling you that scene where he's arguing with the leader of the neo-Nazi clan. He goes like, you know, "You're nothing but a chicken hawk. You know, you feed off people, and you set me up in jail and all this stuff." And the guy goes, "Well, excuse me, but fuck you, Derek." That's still one of my favorite lines in the movie. He goes,
right.
"Well, excuse me, but fuck you, Derek."
Exactly. But yeah, I think Fight Club was an amazing way to sort of look at that whole thing, you know, and for those guys, you know, in the Fight Club, it was like, you know, it was a way to feel alive. It was a type of brotherly camaraderie and things like that.
Well, there's still stuff going on like that, like in bare knuckle boxing. I mean, like in the past year or so, I mean, there's been this uprise of bare knuckle boxing. It's kind of, I mean, you see it on Vice. One time I saw it on Vice on YouTube, and then there's Bobby Gunn, who's a former cruiserweight boxing champion, who's now a bare knuckle boxing champion. And you know, they go to these underground places. Like it usually takes place on like a farm or you know, the parking lots, and you see these guys. It's just bare knuckles, and they're just boxing each other. No rounds. There's no rounds. It's just, you know, a fight to the finish. In fact, Bobby Gunn, when he won the championship, he beat up Jay-Z's bodyguard. Yeah, he was fighting for the bare knuckle boxing championship against Jay-Z's bodyguard.
Right.
And now they're trying to make bare knuckle boxing legal. And let me tell you something, man. There's actually one fight on YouTube that I saw. It was Wade versus it was called Wade versus Milson or whatever it was. It was a bare knuckle boxing match that took place in England, and of course that's been going on for years in England and in Ireland. You know, the gypsies. You know, they travel around and they do the fisticuffs. You know, just like back in the days in the 1800s and stuff like that.
Right.
And let me tell you something, that bare-knuckle boxing thing, I mean, that is just amazing. I mean, because there's no way boxers today like Mayweather or Pacquiao would be able to survive, especially Mayweather trying to do this all day and try to be the, you know, all that. You know, I think Mayweather would get knocked out in that.
Interesting. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think you know, Fight Club is also different because it's you know, it speaks to different things. Like we also try and not talk about our beliefs, our spiritual beliefs on the show, but yeah, one of the things I'm really was glad about in Fight Club is that it was even though he went for it in a very destructive way, it was kind of a Buddhist principle he was trying to get to. He said if we destroy this money making system, then we'll erase debts and we'll all get to zero. So again, I don't approve of his methods, but in doing that, but that was sort of the underlying thing, is that he was reaching, even though it seemed very violent and it seemed like he was tearing down their spirits, the guys in the club, which he kind of was, but eventually it was sort of shown that was his grander goal, and and it's also Jungian psychology, in my opinion. Edward Norton realized, that Brad Pitt was himself.
Oh yeah, that. And let me ask you this. The underground bare knuckle boxing thing would that be something you would participate in if the money was right?
If the money was right, I mean, I don't know if I would participate in it. Perhaps. When you were talking about it, I was thinking, and I was like, well, I guess given my principles, I kind of do have to approve of it, because I think it's, it's bringing it back to the more natural state. It is the more natural state of fighting to just be.
Oh, you mean like back in the 1800s with the Irish? And...
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, ladies, we're going to go out there and have a little fisticuffs right there.
Yeah, fisticuffs. Put up your dukes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, I mean, especially like I talked about that documentary, Dog Fights, and about the backyard boxing thing, backyard brawls, and I mean, especially the way Dada 5000 set it up, in his backyard in Florida and Miami-Dade County,
Right.
It was plus it was the good thing about it was there was a lot of good food there. I mean, Billy Corben, who directed the documentary, also did the Cocaine Cowboy films. He said I had good food, I had good corn on the cob, I had good catfish and barbecue. I mean, the backyard here in your in right where you live, I mean, this could be a good place. I mean, it'd be a good place for a backyard. I mean, for a backyard brawl. I mean, of course, most of the fans would be in the sitting on the balcony and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There wouldn't be much room for a ring.
Right.
But, it'd be a good place to have a little backyard fight. You could have one of your female roommates be the ring card girl, and, you can be the referee saying, okay, this is a bare knuckle fight, and all that stuff.
I want a good, clean fight, folks.
Yeah, a fight to the finish, and... of course, the other roommates will probably be cooking some good food and stuff like that.
Exactly. Well, you gave me a whole new idea. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Of course, we'll have to keep that more of an underground thing, because
yes.
we don't want the FBI or the police to come in with a SWAT team and tear gas and rubber bullets.
Nope. All right, well, I think we did good on that topic.
Yeah, we did good on that. And now this is time for another segment called Chew on This. And let me tell you something. Last weekend, I saw Bellator. I saw Bellator's double header. I mean, Bellator 153 and then Bellator kickboxing. And it was a good double dose of Bellator. I mean, granted, Benson Henderson... lost in his first fight in Bellator, had a chance to win the welterweight title, but he lost to... Oh, it's I got the name of the fighter here on my card here. The name to Andrei Koreskov, and that was it was still a good fight. In fact, the entire card, it was mostly finishes, especially with Michael Venom Page. I mean, when the bell rung in that fight, I mean, he hit him with a right hand, and I was like, oh, shit! And then, of course, eventually finished him off with a heel hook, reverse heel hook, ankle lock, and now he's also fighting in the main event for their card in London that's coming up in July, I believe. I think it's July or June.
Okay.
But the most of the card was great. I mean, Patricio Pitbull finishing with a choke hold. I mean, Brandon Ward lost his fight to Evangelista Santos, who's Christine Cyborg's ex-husband. Actually, I found out they got divorced 4 years ago. Did not know that. Oh, damn. But and then, of course, after that, there was Bellator kickboxing, and that was good, too. I mean, Raymond Daniels, won his fight against Francisco Mauricia with a, spinning back kick to the liver, and then knocked him out. Denise Killholtz, Miss Dynamite, who I've been following on Facebook, she won her fight against Veronica Vernucci. As a matter of fact, she actually did a good spinning back fist. She just went, bam!
Nice.
You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
Won by decision. Gina Carano, you remember her, right?
Do I?
Well, yeah, from from the days in Elite XC, she was a famous women's MMA fighter.
Okay.
Yeah, her boyfriend Kevin Ross won. He won against Mateo Teshin, and actually they were boyfriends and girlfriend in the beginning, and when they were training, and then they broke up. Eventually, she dated Superman Henry Cavillion, I think that's his name, and then now they got back together.
Okay.
Love conquers all. And Melvin Manhoef, who's fighting for the Bellator middleweight title pretty soon, he lost his fight against Alex Negrea, and actually got knocked down a couple of times, which is kind of a shame, because Melvin Manhoef, especially back in the day, he was like the Mike Tyson of middleweight kickboxing. You know what I'm saying? He's like Mike Tyson. He just comes out there and just tries to knock your fucking head off. And it was a good double dose of Bellator, and Bellator really is there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are the number 2 kickboxing promotion. the number 2 MMA promotion out there, and now they're doing it with kickboxing. They have another Dynamite card coming up in June with Bellator kickboxing and MMA on the same night, and Rampage Jackson is the main event. Yeah, he's the main event against Atishio Ishii, some Japanese fighter there. But now they're going out to London pretty soon as well. Bellator really is. It really is on the come up. They really are the number 2 thing. Granted, I wish they would do some pay-per-view fights, but but their fights for free on Spike TV is just nothing but phenomenal. And I really wish you had a TV at your place so you could watch all the Bellator fights. And also, I also wish you could go out to Dave & Buster's and watch a fight there, because Dave & Buster's is a sponsor of Bellator MMA. So, yeah, that's something you should definitely look into, like going out to a Dave & Buster's. And of course, you can get a Uber ride. You can get an Uber ride back, so you wouldn't have to worry about catching a late night train or a bus.
Right. Interesting. Anyway.
And it was a good double night of Bellator, and I had fun. I had fun watching it, and I'm a huge fan of both kickboxing and MMA.
Right.
And this organization being run by Scott Croker, who ran Strikeforce when it was a kickboxing promotion, then eventually went on to be an MMA promotion as well. Did some work for K1, and it is just phenomenal. Man, it is just a phenomenal thing. Yeah. They're going out. This is the card in London. This is their first time outside of the United States, really. They're going outside of the United States. They're going to London. They're at the O2 Arena in London, England. So this will definitely be a good card. I mean,
Yeah,
especially
that is pretty fascinating. And when I heard you talking about that in the beginning of the segment, I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." I didn't know it was their first time going out of the U.S., but
well, yeah, well, not their first time going out of the U.S. Actually, I gotta take that back because they did a card in Italy. They did the MMA thing, and then they did Bellator kickboxing.
okay.
And
But yeah, it is definitely a very different thing to bring it to London. It's a I guess like Italy is one type of culture that you might expect that type of thing, but to bring.
Well, yeah. Well, London has a big following with mixed martial arts. With the Cage Rage promotion from back in the day, and UFC has mostly been doing shows in England, and now they're doing a show now in England as well, Bellator. And actually, the main event of that card is going to be another local boy, James the Colossus Thompson, having the rematch with Kimbo Slice, and that's going to be a huge rematch because I remember the fight they had. It was on CBS. Yeah. The first fight, it was Elite XC on CBS, and that was a fight where James Thompson was dominating Kimbo Slice, and then in the third round, Kimbo Slice did an uppercut to his ear. I mean, James Thompson on his right ear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, it was the left ear. He had a big cauliflower ear, and it had a big bump. And Kimbo Slice just gave him an uppercut to the ear, and that that thing popped, and there was blood coming out of it.
Oh my god!
And Kimbo was just like bam, bam, bam. And then the referee eventually stopped the fight because that ear would have been torn off.
Oh my god!
Exactly.
We don't need another ear lost in a round of fighting.
Oh yeah, exactly. But I mean, it was just awesome. I mean, granted, I do wish Kimbo's next fight was a rematch against Dada because of the controversy behind it. Because of the steroid use. But at this point, Spike TV just cares about ratings. And, I mean, it's good that they care about ratings and stuff like that, but and it has turned some hardcore MMA fans off from it, like Joe Rogan was really turned off by it. I mean, after the Dada 5000 and Shamrock Gracie headliner, double main event, he says that he hasn't followed Bellator as much, and it really has kind of turned him off from that, especially because him and Jimmy Smith are such good friends.
Right.
But, but for me, it's, I still watch it, I still like Bellator, I still like UFC as well, but it's, hey, keep them coming. I mean, as long as the TVs are still on, the ratings are up, and the asses are in the seats, I'm good for it. I am more of a quality and quantity kind of guy myself, but hey, Bellator, keep the fights coming. Give me something to watch on Fridays and Saturday nights.
Right.
And please give Gabe something to watch on Fridays and Saturday nights too. I mean, hey, listen, Gabe, if you can't go out to Dave and Buster's, you can come over to my house. I mean, we'll have the beers, we'll have some pizza, we'll get drunk. Hey, I'll even let you spend the night over at my house.
Okay, all right, offer accepted.
Oh yeah, exactly. And we're gonna end it right here. Make sure to check us out on Bloody Knuckles TV on YouTube. Subscribe and comment. Also, I am doing a blog today on Fighting Words, talking about the Canelo Alvarez Gennady Golovkin fight that needs to happen before 2016 ends, and you're going to hear all about it. And also, just keep watching fights, man. Just keep watching the fights and keep watching our show as I'm drinking a nice, good glass of wine here. And also be on the lookout for our spin-off show, Ringside with Matt and Gabe, which we'll talk about in the near future. It's going to be coming sometime this summer. Summertime is the best time to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because the birds are chirping, the weather's going to be hot, and of course the ladies are coming out with the short skirts and all that good stuff, baby. Which doesn't really interest you, but really it kind of does. Oh yeah, but it does interest me. I mean,
the guys are also out in their tank tops and shorts as well. So.
Oh yeah. Oh hey, don't let me tell Jabari. Don't let me tell Jabari, man. I mean. Oh yeah, exactly. Oh man, I'm a little fucked up right now. Yeah, a little tipsy right now.
All right, so with that,
we're gonna end the show right there. And from Beantown to your town, this is the Beantown Beatdown. Matthew Barris,
Gabe Shamus,
Vios con Dios.